Donald Trump. He had a town hall last night on CNN. And yes, there have been plenty of criticism of CNN for even hosting a town hall with Donald Trump. Some people who are liberals kind of just lost their minds when they found out that this was going to happen. But you have to remember that CNN does have a new manager. And one of the things that he decided to change about CNN is not make it particularly partisan. So he's trying to have Republican politicians come on as well as Republican candidates. I think he's trying to make it a little bit more even, so to speak. So you can only imagine what people are saying about the town hall, especially considering the fact that it wasn't just a Republican, but Donald Trump. I want to start off with some of the most interesting moments from the town hall last night, which I think are important. And I'm going to tell you what I think happened with this town hall. If I were Joe Biden, I would be very ready. And I don't think that Joe Biden is. Let's go ahead and jump right in here.
If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in one day?
Because I'll meet with Putin.
This was probably the most important response last night.
If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours.
How would you settle that war in one day?
Because I'll meet with Putin, I'll meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and they both have strengths. And within 24 hours, that war will be settled. It'll be over. It'll be absolutely over.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down this country. Now,
let's talk about this part right here. This is probably one of the most important questions of the night, the war between Russia and Ukraine. I look back on this and I feel like Caitlyn did not ask this question in the right way. She asked, do you want Ukraine to win this war? Let me tell you why I think that was a problem. Because as we've talked about before on the show, the goal is not necessarily to win. The goal is to support the military-industrial complex, create these never-ending wars, and regime change. That's typically the goal. So how could she have phrased this differently? Maybe she could have asked him, what is your end game for this war between Russia and Ukraine? But don't ask the question, do you want Ukraine to win this war? Like that, to me, that didn't make, and I want to be very clear why I said that question is problematic. You got to think about the base, okay? Even though this town hall is on CNN, you have many Trump supporters watching the town hall. What do most Republicans want? Do they want the war to end with some type of negotiation? Or do they want Ukraine to win the war? I think if you would ask most people, they want some type of peace negotiation and they want this to be settled. So when Caitlyn is asking her questions, it's not just this one. There's another one I'm going to point to. When Caitlyn is asking her questions, she's asking them with the type of framing that liberals want to hear, because that's what she's used to doing because she's on CNN. You just heard the audience clapping, and there were more claps that come along throughout the night. The way he answered this question, especially at the very beginning where he said this war would be done on day one. Now, do we necessarily think that's true? I don't think so. But he's saying what people want to hear. He's saying what his base wants to hear. That is important. Not just Republicans, though, by the way. Some independents, even lefties like myself. I just want it to end. I'm tired of the wars. So that was a good response. And then when she asked him, do you want Ukraine to win this war? He said, I want the killing to stop. Now, why is that an important response? Because he is acknowledging that people are dying on both sides, not just on Russia's side, but also on Ukraine's side. And then it alerts the public that, yes, we need to talk about the tragedy of war, the people who are being killed. This is the question. Mark my words. If this question comes up again, and we're still in this conflict with Russia and Ukraine, and we're going into the debates, if his competitors do not know how to answer that question, Trump gets the nomination in a landslide. If this war is still continuing and it's the debate between Trump and Joe Biden, I think that Donald Trump wins. I hope that everybody is listening to this and everyone is paying attention to how he answered that question. That is very important. Let's go on.
Will you pardon the January 6 rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them. I can't say for every single one because a couple of them probably they got out of control. But, you know, when you look at Antifa, what they've done to Portland, and if you look at Antifa, look at what they've done to Minneapolis and so many other places. Look at what they did to Seattle and BLM. Many people were killed. These people, I'm not trying to justify anything, but you have two standards of justice in this country. And what they've done, and I love that question, because what they've done to so many people is nothing. And then what they've done to these people, they've persecuted these people. And yeah, my answer is I am most likely, if I get in, I will most likely, I would say it will be a large portion of them. You know, they did a very...
Listen to the applauses. See what I'm saying? And CNN might not have been prepared for this, but there are a lot of people applauding for Donald Trump. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to make the comparison between the protesters that came out in January and BLM and Antifa. And he's trying to make that comparison in reference to like the rioting, right? Like breaking into retail shops and some of the violence that came along with all three of those situations. I don't know if that's necessarily the best comparison, and I'll tell you why. Number one, when we talk about BLM is not as liked now as it was during that time. People see that BLM has basically become a cash cow. Anytime the organization is able to have a $5 million house, people see that it fell right into capital, and it's all about making money. So BLM doesn't hold as much weight with the activist community, particularly those who are activists for police brutality. It doesn't hold as much weight back then. It doesn't hold as much weight right now as it did back then. So I don't know if Trump realizes that, but I'm just letting you know, as someone who is an activist, it's not as powerful as it was before. We don't see it in the same light as we did before. Antifa, like, I don't know. I guess I'm one of those people. I just don't take Antifa as seriously as some people do. I just like, whatever, you know, but I think people need to pay attention to that as well. But I don't know about the BLM thing. Like I said, people don't like them as much now as they did back then.
And it'll be very early on. And they're living in hell right now.
You defended the comments that you made on that Access Hollywood tape about being able to grab women how you want. Do you stand by those comments?
I said if you're famous and rich or whatever I said, but I said if you're a star, you are, and I said women let you. I didn't say you grab. I said women let. You know, you didn't use that word, but if you look, women let you. Now, they said, will you take that back? I said, look, for a million years, this is the way it's been. I want to be honest. This is the way it's been. I can take it back if you'd like to, but if you're a famous person, if you're a star, and I'm not referring to myself, I'm saying people that are famous, people that are
you
stars,
were asked in the deposition,
people that are rich,
to be a star,
people that are powerful, they tend to do pretty well in a lot of different ways, okay? And you would like me to take that back? I can't take it back because it happens to be true. Just so you understand, I had every right to do it.
So let me just chime in there for a second. I have to go back and check the way that he actually said that. But I guess what he's trying to say with that statement is that for people who are celebrities and people who are famous, they can get women to pretty much do what they want them to do. And I guess you can point to people like professional athletes that have groupies waiting for them when they show up to different cities to play a game, that kind of thing. But I'd have to go back and check and see if he actually did word it that way. I don't remember, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that Trump found a way during this town hall to turn the negatives in his direction and try to make it a positive. And this is something that someone who knows how to read a room can do really well. I think that Donald Trump knows how to read the room. It's like he can feel the energy of the room when he goes into the room. So even though she was kind of coming at him with obviously tough questions, negative questions as well, he found a way to turn it around and make it seem like it was not so negative after all. And everybody should pay attention to that. And anyone who plans on debating Donald Trump should pay attention to that as well. That's not something that's necessarily easy to do. Let's go on. So we're going on to talk about the documents.
Just so you understand, I had every right to do it. I didn't make a secret of it. You know, the boxes were stationed outside of the White House. People were taking pictures of the GSA of the various people.
I got to stop you right there, though, because the Presidential Records Act, which is not well known to a lot of people, I read it. It does not say that you can take documents with you. It says actually that they are the property of the federal government.
It says you talk, you negotiate, you make a deal. It's not criminal, by the way. The Presidential Records Act is not criminal.
That part, I don't know if it was the best question to ask him either, and let me tell you why. Because you can also flip that around and apply that to Joe Biden about taking these classified documents. Because now Joe Biden has been called out for doing the same thing. So that's another thing where Trump, again, he can take that negative and flip it around and say, are you serious? Like Joe Biden, which I think he did say later on. I didn't get all of it on there. But are you serious? The president of the United States has done this right now. So I think that's the thing. I'm going to show you something else too, because I don't feel like she was fully prepared for this. I think she thought that because of CNN, the audience was going to be in her favor, most likely on her side. Not so much the case last night. I have another clip. This one was the doozy. Let's we got to get into this one. Now, shout out to Tim. So Tim Young shared this on Twitter. I don't know who Tim is, but this one really will have you floored. Trump just pulls out receipts to disprove Caitlin Collins' claims on the CNN town hall, and the crowd cheers. This is not going the way that CNN wanted it to. You have got to see this clip here.
Back to what happened on that day.
You said you weren't. He did not say that.
He has testified that, Mr. President.
He did not say that.
But you said you weren't very involved that day. You did tell your supporters to come to Washington. You tweeted about it, about that speech that happened on the rally.
Am I allowed to say that?
When they went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers, why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out.
See, again, guys, pay close attention. Notice the crowd. They're cheering for him. They're cheering for him. This is not going the way I think that she thought that this town hall was going to go. He showed up with physical receipts. Now, I know you guys always say, well, Sabby always has receipts. Not in my pocket. This guy showed up with physical receipts ready and prepared. This is why I said if Joe Biden were to debate Donald Trump tonight, right now, he would not be ready for this. Not prepared. What's that, Jay? Trump literally pulled out the receipts. Yeah, I know. I was watching this and I was like, seriously? Ready to fight. And the crowd is cheering for him. They're not booing. So let's go back. We'll let them finish this.
Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out. So if you look at on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now I use Truth Social. I think it's far superior, okay? I hope everybody's on Truth. If you look January 6th, just at before 2:30, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on truth and I'm staying on truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
Mr. President, I looked at the same timeline that you did.
No, I know, but you didn't report that. You know why? Because it was taken down.
We did report it. I was reporting that
thing. It was taken down and it wasn't.
But when it was clear.
Aye. Aye. If you have not had a chance to do so, go ahead and hit that like button, guys. That helps me out with the algorithm there. But it did not go well for Caitlyn. Did not. I don't think she was prepared for that. I wouldn't expect someone to have physical receipts. That was also interesting, too. There was actually a town hall focus group, and they were questioning about Donald Trump.
When they went to the...
Whoops, sorry. They were questioned about Donald Trump. I want you to hear their response because, again, I don't think this worked out the way that CNN thought it would. They tried to do a gotcha question here. Listen to this.
Does it bother you that he keeps talking about 2020 and not 2024? I'll ask you first. This is Jonathan Leslie. He's 40, Republican, voted for Trump twice. How do you feel about those lies?
So I feel like part of it's also the media narrative, as you guys asked him the first question at the town hall about the 2020 election, rather than current stuff.
So don't you think he could say it's time for me to start talking about 2024 and not lies that aren't true?
Couldn't the media ask him a question about 2024?
Well, there were questions, but you're right. That was the first thing, but that's something that was on our mind. And that's why I was asked first. Mike McLaughlin, does it bother you that he keeps talking about 2020 and not 2024? I'll ask you first. This is Jonathan Leslie. He's 40, Republican, voted for Trump twice. How do you feel about those lies?
So I feel like part of it's also the media narrative, as you guys asked him the first question at the town hall about the 2020 election.
The media narrative. They really tried with that. Did not work well. Did not work well. Now, Chris Cuomo, former CNN commentator, he had something to say about this as well. For those of you who are not aware, he is on News Nation. This is on YouTube. And I don't think he's going to like the responses here from his guests talking about how she believes that Trump won over the people during that town hall. Listen to this.
He's going to come back in just like he came into the belly of the beast tonight, got a hostile media. He was calm, cool, collected. He masterfully answered every single question in a hostile environment. And guess what? He won over the people in that room.
We'll see how people in the room felt. I didn't get to watch it. Obviously, I've been on TV, but from what I'm reading, it seemed like you got a pretty fair shake in terms of what the questions were. But we'll see how that shakes out. You're right.
This piece right here, where he said it seems like he got a fair shake in reference to how the questions were. If he was still on CNN, I wonder if he would be able to say some of the things that he's saying now on News Nation. Probably not. Probably not. Let's go on.
Right about Title 42 going down and nothing being there to replace it that will stop the flow. It's going to be a bloodbath politically, and I think there's going to be a lot of blame to go around, but it's going to be bad for Democrats. The dollar is not close to losing its reserve status, and even if it were, no president can make that any different because it is a world market. And different sovereigns make the decision. You can shake your head any way you want, Liz. That's the way the monetary policy in the world market works.
And we're not.
I know we have leverage, but you don't control what the reserve currency is as the U.S. president, and the U.S. dollar is doing just fine as the reserve currency.
No,
but I hear you about the border.
Ask all the BRICS nations. Look at how they're abandoning the dollar as we speak.
Please.
And it's the Biden regime that's pushing them away.
Look at China and look at the UAE and look how they are buying it. But anyway, That's for another day. I appreciate your take on it. Thank you, Liz Harrington, for making your case for the campaign. Appreciate you taking the opportunity.
Hey.
Bye. Susie says, hey, bye. Do you think that Donald Trump won over the people last night during that town hall? Now, I did watch it, and I will say he didn't seem to sweat. Again, I think he knows how to read a room. And I think that Biden, who's already struggling with press conferences, how is Joe Biden going to debate this guy? I don't expect Joe Biden to be as sharp as he was in 2020 during the debate. I really don't expect that to happen. But you show up with physical receipts. Someone mentioned it earlier. He outdid me. He actually did outdo me, okay? Because I don't walk around with physical receipts. Now, Ben Shapiro said something, and I usually do not agree with Ben Shapiro on almost anything. But I agree with him on this statement here. CNN did a massive favor last night, and everyone knows it. Here's why. The town hall was billed as a Republican primary town hall, which means that presumably Trump should have been asked about issues Republican voters care about, like, say, Fauci, the pandemic, criminal justice reform, and Alice Johnson and crime, the border wall, and illegal immigrants, etc. Now, let me present a partial list of the issues Republican voters don't care about. E. Jean Carroll, this is the woman that has accused Donald Trump of sexual assault. January 6th, Georgia election questions, National Archive documents, Alvin Bragg's allegations. These are all Democrat top issues. Collins asked 0 of the questions Republicans cared about and all the ones Democrats cared about. So in other words, this was billed as a GOP primary night, and it was just Caitlin Collins asking questions Democrats have about Trump. Republican voters sensed this. So when Trump took out the kitchen sink and began hammering Collins into the wall with it, they cheered. Republicans will always and correctly cheer biased moderators being steamrolled by Republican candidates, no matter what those candidates actually say. Trump wins more favor with Republican voters. Democrats remain off put. Independents continue to wonder why we're litigating 2020. Ridiculous failure by CNN on all fronts, unless, of course, their goal is to renominate Trump for the ratings and because they think he's most beatable. Note, this, by the way, is precisely their goal. And if you were to go back to the town hall last night, he actually has a point here about the questions that Caitlin chose to ask him. She's looking at this, as a commentator on CNN. These are the issues they talk about on CNN all the time. They talk about those issues about Georgia and Alvin Bragg and Jean Carroll and January 6th. They talk about January 6th all the time. I'm so sick of it. I'm so hearing about January 6th. Problem is, Republican audiences and most Republican voters don't really care about those issues. So by asking those questions that Democrats tend to care about, and I'd also question how many Democrats actually care, but the narrative that they usually run on CNN, that actually, in my opinion, that actually helped Trump. So many people were upset. AOC was very upset and said that CNN did such a bad job and they shouldn't have done this and blah, blah, blah. Apparently, she's the spokesperson for who should or should not be platformed or should be censored, what media people should talk about now. It's really interesting. It's also very scary and concerning to see someone who's a politician make these statements and say who should be speaking what and to whom. But in my opinion, I feel like CNN, they dug their own hole here. They dug themselves into a hole and they couldn't get out of it. I don't feel like Caitlin was prepped with the right questions. I don't know if she picked her questions herself or the questions were given to her. But I don't feel like that was the road to go down. I do think he struggled a little bit with the abortion question. And I feel like that's something he doesn't really want to touch, but you're going to have to touch it in the general election. You're going to have to touch it at some point. This is going to come back up again. And I think he doesn't really want to touch it because some of the Republican voters are not against abortion anymore. If you look at the polls, it shows you. But case in point, some liberals are upset because they feel like the town hall actually helped Donald Trump. I don't feel like where the town hall took place really made a difference for Trump. If it was on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, I don't think that matters. I think he still knows how to answer these questions in a crowd-pleasing way. And that goes back to knowing how to read the room. Joe Biden, who I believe the DNC will still put forth, is going to have a really tough time. Really tough time. And I don't care for Donald Trump. But just because I don't care for someone doesn't mean they don't know how to answer questions. Top question of the night was the Ukraine-Russia war. The war in Ukraine, top question of the night. Wants to end the war within 24 hours. Again, he's saying what people want to hear. Do I think that'll actually happen? No, I don't. But he gave the right responses. Wants to end the war in 24 hours. And then when she said, do you want Ukraine to win this war? His response was, I want the killing to stop. That's why I said she should not have asked that question in that way. But here we are. Let's go to some of the comments here. Make sure you answer the poll. What do you think? Don't just go by what I say. How do you think that town hall made Donald Trump look? And we'll talk about that tonight on Call In as well. Public Domain says Antifa is a state of mind, you fucks. Yeah, like the Antifa thing for me, I was just always like, Rick, CNN got owned all night. Notori, CNN is so sad and pathetic. Bad Cookies, look at all of this free publicity. The MSM is going to make Trump a monster all over again. Chastity says, my mom is MSNBC Blue no matter who, and she was impressed, and it changed her mind about some of his ideas. You guys see this? Thank you for the super chat, M. Smith. I don't think Donald Trump had to win them over. That's a good point as well. Terry says Biden will lose on any debate. Oh boy. I'll take that comment on Rockfin. Thanks. Thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. What he said and what he meant to say can be two different things. Women let you get away with a lot when you are rich and famous. The problem is when two women welcome it, you as a man make an assumption that all women have this mentality. 99% will let you and are okay with it, welcome it, but it's that 100th woman that is like, whoa, what is this? I didn't ask for this. 99% okay, 100th will kill you, men. Be mindful. Think Tyson. Mike Tyson? Okay. I think you're talking about Mike Tyson. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for that, Roger. And Eric did let me know in the private chat, Trump quote, and when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the boop. You can do anything. So Eric was able to find that actual quote. Interesting times we're living in, ladies and gentlemen.